and a good almost Christmas, a happy almost Christmas day to you. It is December the 23rd. It is a Monday, which means that we do get to have an A World Away read along, and we are going to like it and we're going to enjoy it, and we're not gonna say anything about Christmas or whatever, because what's the fun in that? I'm sure everybody around you is wishing you happy holidays, and I certainly shall not wish you happy holidays or Merry Christmas or whatnot, because I'm gonna be ordinary like that. Hello everybody on YouTube watching us, and hello gang. Today the gang is mostly compromise is made up of Teal and Liz and Patrick, and that's it. Cause I don't know.
Yes, we are short on people
For
because
some mysterious
people are spending time there. Look, I'm just going to come out and say it. People are spending time with their families for the holidays.
How dare you? Didn't I say we were not going to talk about the holidays? We're fine. Okay, fine. Let's just get that out of the way.
You know me. You know me. When you say one thing, I'm going to say, no, I'm going to do the other thing.
Yeah. Tia, what was that?
They're just struggling under Avigalib's harsh judgment.
Oh, yes. There it is.
The season has turned.
The nobles speak that we love. Yes, indeed. We are here, ready to read two more chapters. We're only gonna do two today because we're kind of taking it easy. We're getting closer and closer to catching up to the official AO3 release, and I'm still not done with it, so we are going to be hitting the brakes, you guys. Luckily though, these are two chapters that go very good together. They're kind of related, so you'll see when we read them. Do you guys remember what's been happening in A World Away?
Well, we just had a huge little deal with Dolores and her potential redemption arc, though I don't think that's going to happen. And we're getting back to present time with Eckhart saying goodbye to Hyde-Marie and moving on with his life.
Mm-hmm. Right. And so anything else that we're forgetting? I think that pretty much covers it. Yeah. So in this read along, we are going to continue on. There was the plan at first that Ferdinand and his people were going to go to sovereignty during the spring. Their new tenure was going to be announced during the Archduke Conference, which is like late in the spring, almost summer, right? But because of reasons, and this world is basically just collapsing onto itself, well, they're like, nah, we're gonna move that timeline. You're gonna get over here, and you're going to be the head of the sovereignty temple, and you're gonna, that means that he's going to have to be there for dedication ritual. He's gonna have to be there for all these things. So that kind of like messes up Eckhart and Myne's plans. They were kind of hoping to just like, prepare for the move and, spend some time together. But no, not gonna happen. So that is kind of sad and tragic, but oh well.
It seems kind of reminiscent of canon when Ferdinand had to move forward his plans to move to Arnsbach.
Yes, exactly. I'm glad you pointed it out, because basically I try to right, Liz, because I try to put some stuff from canon and into the story, like probably not like direct, but it's kind of like to call back to that. Every time you make a plan, be sure to like expect that it's going to be moved up. Like, I don't know, for Benno has like this kind of rule of thumb, if you guys will remember. Whenever Myne says 3 years, it's going to be 1, and he right. So yeah, we have that happen here. All right, But before we actually get started reading, I just saw that there are some comments from people that are not able to join us here on the YouTube. So first of all, welcome YouTube gang. The first comment award goes to Yukihime, who did make sure to brag about all the pork she's eating. And she actually dropped in to tell us about the festivities. Not that I'm a little bitter because I don't get to have festivities right now. I'm actually just exhausted. And most of my friends, they're like either moved away or whatever. And so as the years have gone by, the parties and stuff that I've attended like have dramatically decreased, and I am not at all bitter, not at all disappointed. That's why I kind of wanted to do like a boycott on Christmas, but that would be too bitter, and I don't want to turn into Scrooge. I don't want some ghost to come at me at some point. So just saying, enjoy your holidays, enjoy your the food you're eating and the drinks and everything. Just make sure not to give yourself a tummy ache, or you'll end up feeling sad indeed. Teal, you holding up okay there?
So
right. Also we have, let's see, Teal put a comment. Not first, I wouldn't have taken it if offered, and furthermore, so few people will catch this pun even though I put so much effort into it. Not first, I wouldn't have taken it if offered in, and furthermore, I probably am the one person, I'm gonna wake up in the middle of the night and I'll be like, oh my gosh, I get it. So please explain it.
Ferdinand, furthermore, Ferdinand is in there.
Well,
hidden Ferdinand.
I certainly, we've offered in and further. I certainly would not have gotten it. But that's a good one, Teal. But I think that's too wrinkly brain energy for me. Like, my brain is really smooth these days. If you guys haven't noticed it, it's I'm just kind of like, whoa. But I love it. You keep doing that. You are our official scholar. You're the scholar in our Discord server. We have trolls and mischief makers. You're just our venerated scholar.
I'm a troll.
Yes, you're the troll. Of course you are. So thank you, Tia, for sharing that. I shall endeavor to improve my mind so I can, enjoy and get the pun at the first read. You're awesome. We have Red Tempest says, I can't join since I didn't know ahead of time. I know, I'm so sorry. I kind of like...
It's okay, Red.
Yeah.
A lot of us didn't know ahead of time. We barely had noticed this morning.
Yeah, I'm so sorry, you guys. Do you guys ever get like the Lulu situation where you're kind of like... You think to yourself like, okay, I have to set up the events on the calendar. And then because you already thought it, then your brain kind of like checks it off, like, check, you did it. That's what happened. So I thought about doing it, and somehow my brain thought like I did it. So
that sounds like when I do my timesheet at the end of the week.
Oh yeah. My boss, I don't know if it's the sugar, you guys. I think it might be the sugar. But my boss texted me the other day like, are you going to verify your time card? And I'm like, I thought I did that already. No, I hadn't. And it was due on Sunday, like the verification and all that stuff. And it was already like Monday night. I was like, oh my gosh.
I love those last minute text messages like, hey, you need to get your timesheet done.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Not that I do this on a regular basis.
What a handful.
Liz is throwing shade. Okay. Yes, Liz, we deserve that. Says, anyway, I hope you enjoy the replay if you can't join the live. Also, we have Crusher says, hello, I'm gonna be installing a water softener while I listen. Hit me up if you need a spare reader. you know what? We just had to sort ourselves out here. I don't know if these fine folks want to give up a role, but we were just like, okay.
I have 4 roles that all talk to each other. I would definitely like to hand off some roles.
Crusher, you have been hit up. You have been hit. Join us. Patrick would like to would like to share some of his roles. He is going to be reading Ferdinand and Eckhart, which are 2 major roles. So, I mean, he has his hands
And
full.
Eustace and Cornelius.
Yes, that's true. That's true. So get on over here if you can put the water heater down for an hour or so. Yeah, come on, join. Blackshrod, hey, how are you? Good evening, everyone. Joining the end of December reading Mischief. Yes, happy to have you here. I was hoping you and the rest of our Europe gang would join, including Vincent or whoever, or Time Lord
Yeah, Vincent,
Boy.
what the heck?
Time Lord Boy as well. He's always welcome as well. You know, like I have been doing a lot of these readings in the afternoons. Well, Pacific time, California time afternoon, which means that it's like the middle of the night for you guys. But I'm happy to see you here, Blockshot, and I hope you enjoy it. You guys are calling me out. Right, Tempest and Teal. You know, I get it. I set myself up for that. Crusher says, LOL, Magpie.
Wait,
this just means
they're calling you out without me?
Yeah, that's right.
Did I miss something?
Well, that's because I was saying about being bitter about the number of parties decreasing and stuff like that. And so on and so forth. And then Crusher comes up with this idea. Says, Magpie, this just means you need to host the parties. Now, welcome, Crusher. Hey!
Dibs on Ferdinand.
I don't know. Patrick, do you want to share Ferdinand?
I don't know if that's what I want to share. I mean...
Okay, fine, Eckhart.
Whoa. That's definitely not... Okay, you can have Ferdinand.
Okay.
Yeah, there we go. That's how you negotiate, people.
All right. He got lessons from Benno. I see Gremlin Merchant here. All right. So, parties. I used to host parties like a lot. We would have like posada style. Like, I don't know if any of you guys are Mexican here or have had Mexican friends.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, we used to have posadas yearly. It was no like the Magpie family is gonna have a posada, and everybody would be like, when is the posada happening? And I used to do that all through like my teenage, posadas from my teenage teenage
what is
years.
posada?
Oh, so posada is like the best thing ever, right? If you're a Mexican, okay. So it's a Mexican tradition, whereas like they have you go around. Gosh, there's so much to talk about it. I'm excited. So there's piñatas, there's gifts. There's a whole bunch of food, there's candy, but one of the most important parts about it is there's like this little musical that you do. Everybody knows the lyrics, or if not, you print out the lyrics, and you go out to the neighborhood and you have pre-planned like stations where you stop and you sing a song. You basically are play acting Mary and Joseph looking for a posada or a place at an inn that will let them in. So they kind of like sing around the neighborhood. In my case, it was my apartment complex.
Oh,
and
so that's what a posada is.
Yes. And then at the end,
Go ahead. Sorry.
No. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, when I lived in San Jose, a lot of the Hispanic families around they did stuff like that. I never knew what it was called until now.
It's a posada. Now, most of the time, though, like especially in Catholic Mexico, it's a several night event. Like it's different people host. But since in my church we were like the main Mexicans, that's okay. So I don't go to a Spanish speaking church. We're like, oh yeah, we know Mexicans. They're the Magpie family. They're the Mexicans to go to if you ever need anything Mexican related. So because we were like the main Hispanic family there, we would host and we would invite friends and stuff who did not know anything, but it was only a single night event. When it's like several other like when you're in Mexico, usually people in the neighborhood take turns to host them. At the end of the song, because you go around singing, at the end of the song, the last person kind of says like, oh, welcome, peregrinos coming to the house, and then they host the place, and they have the tamales, they have the food, they have the piñata, they have the candy, they have the games, and it's joyful. In my case, those we tried to do the posada thing once, and it was hard. So we decided that from now on, instead of singing around the neighborhood, because it was really awkward, instead of singing around the neighborhood, we just decided to kind of do like the singing part in our house, and instead of singing the posada song, we would just do a big huge karaoke party. So we'd start with the food and stuff, and then we would save the saving towards the end when we would just have karaoke. And then to close off the night, we would go to the basketball court in the apartment complexes and just break the piñata there. And it was fun because all of these were teenagers and young adults. So when it's just between adult people, like, you don't have to worry that you'll make the kids cry. You can go crazy. Anyway, gosh, such good times. I should probably do another posada.
That sounds like so much fun.
It is fun, but I'm telling you, if I were to host another posada, people will bring their kids, and I don't want that because then we can't have fun. I'm sorry, I love kids, but when you have kids involved, you have to play nice, and I don't.
Yeah.
You guys understand, right? You guys understand. It's a different dynamic when there's kids. Like, yeah, we could have a piñata, but it's gonna be for the kids. And that's,
you can do certain things as an adult that when you have kids around, it's definitely a no-go.
Yeah, so probably that's not gonna happen again. I could host a party, but I'm just kind of burnt out, you guys. As I'm always looking, I was like, man, I do know about parties going on, but there's a lot of kids and stuff like that, and I'm like, I think I'm just kind of, my party days are over. Time to put away my ugly sweater in like in like the attic or storage or whatever. By the way, my ugly sweater is a T-Rex sweater. So it's a T-Rex and it's delightful and I love it. So
nice.
Yeah.
I never really got into the ugly sweater thing.
Really? Ugly sweater parties are awesome.
Yeah, and I know it's a big thing for millennials. It's just not my thing.
I thought you were a millennial.
I am.
So that's why you're all lawful good.
Look, you chaotic evil.
Oh, yes. People, if you don't know this yet, we all took personality tests, and I got lawful good. So if you think I'm chaotic, then you were wrong.
Yeah, actually, Patrick really surprised me. He's like the furthest, like he hit like the limit of the most lawful. Like, how can anybody be on the like way on? I was like, lies. There's no way he's the most lawful, as lawful as you can get.
Are you saying that I defrauded this personality test? Would I do such a thing?
Yes.
No hesitation.
Yes.
This woman, she slanders me.
You're the slanderer. What are you talking about? All right, you guys. I do believe we have gotten a little bit off track. This is kind of like our Christmas get together, though. If I think about it, I don't know. What are your Christmas traditions? I know it's so hilarious. I said we would not talk about Christmas, but
see, Red agrees with me. He says I'm a saint.
Oh, look, Red. Right, Liz, right? Okay, Red is like super chaotic evil, okay? So, yeah, I'm gonna take what Red says with a grain of salt. It could have been the medicine talking too when he made that exam, so I don't know what to believe these days.
You know what? Red, you're good in my book. I support what you're saying.
Fool than I thought.
Ooh, Teal says 85% good, 85% lawful. Huh? Is that yours, Teal? Wow. Aw.
Yeah, she was more good than most.
You are. Yeah. I forget which one mine was, but I'm also lawful good. I just have less lawful than Patrick, which kinda was weird. All right. So, Red Tempest, you forget who is your empress. It is not Patrick. It is me. Okay,
Look.
Please remember
Magpie,
that.
did you ever watch the Mask as a kid?
The Mask, is that the one with Jim Carrey?
Yeah,
Mm.
where he puts on the mask and he
Mhm.
goes all cartoony and stuff. Well, do you remember when Ben Stein was playing the role of that? He was an academic, and he had this book coming out, The Mask We Wear, and he's talking about how everybody in social situations they put on masks. They were metaphorical masks, of course, but yeah.
Very insightful indeed. I kind of agree. Like,
there's no time for masks. Just be yourself.
yeah, I mean, we try to be our best versions of ourselves, our wittiest versions and stuff. At some point, though, I just decided that I'm not as smart as I pretend to be, and I'm just kind of like seeing what happens. So this is actually me, you guys, and if I ever just drop out, it's because I basically interacting with people takes a lot of energy. So I think that's mostly the biggest mask though that I think I put on, is just trying to be like peppy and like outgoing when I'm just really a quiet kind of shy person in reality. So I want to be authentic, but I can't help but try to be like peppy, and I think that works for everybody. Yeah. So anyway, we're getting so out of we're supposed to be reading today, you guys, but I'm glad to see that there's folks on the chat, and I hope you enjoyed the read along today. We are reading chapter 80 and 81. We have the following people reading. Elvira will be read by Magpie. Eckhart will be read by Patrick. Fran will be read by Teal. Myne will be read by Teal. Eustace will be read by Pat. Cornelius will be read by Pat. Crusher will be read... No. Ferdinand will be read by Crusher. Last From will be read by Teal. Sylvester will be read by Teal. Yeah, awesome. I look forward to seeing how you guys juggle all those roles. You guys have got this.
It's gonna be fun.
It's
gonna be an adventure.
Patrick, give me Eustace.
Okay, you can have Eustace.
Okay, and Crusher will be Eustace. Oh wait, Eustace will be Crusher. Let's see. I love how Crusher's just like, Patrick, do this. Like, no, can I be this? Can I take this off your plate most kindly? Nope, he's just like, give it to me. I see, Crusher.
And I'm willing to give it because I have so many roles to give.
All right, so Patrick.
And Teal has a lot of roles too.
Yeah, but Teal doesn't want to give them away. If she doesn't want to give them away, then we can't force her to give them away. How are you feeling, Teal? Are you good?
I'm good.
Okay, see, Teal is good. All right, let's do this, you guys. We're going to be reading chapter 80. And I hope you guys got enough of happy, happy, joy, joy, because these are very, very angsty chapters. So just putting it out there. All right. Chapter 80. Don't Go. Point of view, Eckhart and Myne. Summary. Saying goodbye to Ferdinand. Eckhart. Typically around 6 bell, Myne's bustling household slowed its pace. Work concluded, visitors departed, and scholars returned home, leaving attendants to focus on kitchen duties and tending to the rooms used in the evening hours. The house transformed in a way he found it difficult to describe, and just felt warmer and cozier. It felt like home. But today was different. Just after he'd locked up his house, Myne was also in the process of doing the same with hers, although to a much different degree. Now that the printing workshop she toiled to set up was ready, it seemed like a folly to shut it all down. Therefore, the part of the house related to her business would stay open. Her scholars would still have employment, the printing press would start churning out books as planned, the salon would continue to welcome noble ladies and have weekly meetings under Frida and Lady Elvira, while Bernard would see to it that everything ran smoothly on a day-to-day basis and keep Myne informed via detailed reports. However, the floors containing the living quarters were to be closed off entirely, and Myne's things were in the process of being packed off and sent over to his mother's. Oh, I was so looking forward to spending winter setting up Myne's new chambers. Elvira sighed with disappointment when he told her that Lord Ferdinand's scheduled departure had been pushed up. Oh, I guess we'll have no other choice than to move her things from her house to mine. What a shame. That reminded Eckhart of how Myne had once said she had looked forward to planning and preparing their shared suite over the winter, and he turned that down. He guessed that women saw that as a very significant thing, and looking back on it, he regretted having turned Myne down flatly back then. Had he hurt her feelings? He sincerely hoped he hadn't. Fran led Eckhart to where Myne was. As busy as Myne's head attendant was with conducting the move, Fran made sure to keep a semblance of normalcy by greeting Eckhart at the door and leading him to his lady just as he always did. However, when they opened the door to her study, Fran gasped quietly in surprise. Within the hushed ambience of the study, Myne had surrendered herself to the embrace of Schlafdrum. She was still sitting on her desk, but her head rested in the cradle of her folded arms. Apologizing, Fran moved to wake her, but Eckhart stopped him before he could do so.
Shoot, I navigated away from the thing. There we are. I'll take it from here, Fran.
Eckhart said softly, knowing that Myne's excellent retainer would probably put up some resistance. Fran was a little like Lasram in his fierce loyalty and in his emphasis on doing things the proper way. He'd insist that Eckhart was a guest, apologize profusely, and so on. However, underneath all of that, there was also protectiveness. Fran was nothing if not protective of his lady, which meant that he took on the task of gently correcting her infrequent lapses of etiquette, and always made sure that her guests had absolutely nothing to criticize her for whenever they came to see her. Fran was always on the alert, even when Eckhart was around, because to the ever-careful attendant, Eckhart, despite being Myne's god of darkness, was still a guest. Such a thing would have made any other man in his place feel uncomfortable if not outright offended, especially if this insolence came from a commoner. But Eckhart understood. Fran would probably continue to treat him like that until Eckhart and Myne starbind, when Fran could finally see him as part of Myne's family. Imagine Eckhart's surprise, though, when Myne's vigilant attendant bowed and exited, leaving Eckhart alone with Myne.
Well then, Lord Eckhart, I will leave my lady in your care.
Eckhart watched the attendant go, but after he got over his surprise, he stepped into the room and closed the door behind him, without even so much as a sound. He made his way toward Myne with quiet footsteps and admired his slumbering goddess. The desk lamp's soft glow caressed Myne's serene features, illuminating not just her beauty, but also the faint blue shadows under her eyes that indicated her tireless endeavors and, most painfully, her sleepless nights as of late. A few stray strands of hair that had escaped her usually perfect updo, her ink-stained fingertips, and scattered papers, akin to falling leaves, all bore witness to show how slammed with work she'd been as of late. She should not have been made to work so hard and worry so much. They should have had an entire winter to prepare for his departure and to install her in his mother's house. He had counted on having a winter to themselves to make more memories, to warm each other through the nights, to bask in the glory of their newfound love. And yet, not for the first time did his rage toward the royal family cause him to almost burst out of his skin in a murderous fit. The winter he had envisioned to prepare for his and Lord Ferdinand's departure and ensure Myne's happiness and safety in her new home was abruptly snatched away by those incompetents. Oh, but he'd make them pay for it if given the chance. At the murderous reflections going through his head, he balled his fist and growled, a sound that unfortunately disturbed Myne's slumber. Her delicate eyelids flickered and her golden eyes opened. She moaned softly as she straightened and rubbed her eyes sleepily.
Eckhart,
She said, her voice sounding husky and warm, much like it did in the mornings when she woke in his arms and said his name, sounding both sleepy and content. The wolf inside him stretched and began to paw the ground in anticipation for the hunt.
No, not now.
She needed her rest. Despite how much he craved her, he sighed and willed his blood to cool.
Sorry I woke you.
He murmured, sitting on the edge of her desk.
you didn't wake me. I was just resting my eyes.
Yeah, Eckhart chuckled, poking her cheek gently.
There's a mark from where your cheek was resting on your sleeve as you snored away the afternoon.
No way. Really?
Myne said with dismay, touching the side of her face in panic.
No, I'm just joking.
Eckhart said soothingly, even though she not only had a mark on her cheek, but there were 1 or 2 ink stains in her face.
You are as bewitching as ever. Truly.
Myne gave him a playful smack on the leg and muttered something about him being a shameless flirt, but both her cheeks turned pink, and her golden eyes were aglow with mirth. Those honey-sweet eyes were affectionate and so loving that Eckhart's heart just ached looking at them.
Leaving her behind is going to hurt so bad.
He wouldn't make her have another sleepless night, but he could hold her, right? Eckhart stretched out a hand toward her and gently cupped the side of her uplifted face, gently smoothing the skin of her cheek with his thumb. Myne closed her eyes and leaned into his touch.
Sorry, I'm a mess right now, but at least you'll be happy to know I'm almost done.
Sorry, I didn't catch it.
Is it too quiet?
It's a little quiet, yeah. I'm cranking
Yeah.
out the volume on you. You're at 200%.
Sorry about that, Teal. I think you said we talked about this part?
Sorry, I'm a mess right now.
Sorry, I'm a mess right now, but at least you'll be happy to know I'm almost done. Any better?
Yeah, that was good. I caught that. That was very good. Patrick, can you...
Can you crank me up?
I can hear you just fine. I'm wondering where that line is because I don't.
Page 4.
Slide 4.
Oh shoot! I was looking at the wrong color.
How
be of any help?
How many sessions have we? All right, sorry.
Look. Even I have my moments. Damn it!
Even you. All right, fine concession, Patrick. All right, sorry. Go read your line again. Can you be of any help?
Can I be of any help?
Eckhart said, leaning down and kissing the spot on her cheek that he'd been caressing. He felt her smile and knew her answer before she spoke.
Thank you, but you don't have to worry. I know you're already so busy and...
Myne.
Eckhart said against her skin.
We talked about this.
I know.
Eckhart straightened and narrowed his eyes at Myne. There was something she was keeping back, and it wasn't just about paperwork. But prying out the issue from her was not something he wanted to do. He wanted Myne to confide in him, but he didn't want to force it out of her.
I won't insist. But just know that you are no burden or bother to me no more. No more than Lord Ferdinand is.
He tilted up her face toward him.
It is both my duty and honor to be of use to you. I hope you can understand that.
Myne looked up at him, and after a long pause she nodded as if she'd read some conclusion. Before he could wonder what it was, though, she held out both her arms toward him. He took them and helped her up. But before he could escort her up for dinner, she reached up and tugged on his shirt. As he leaned toward her, she wrapped her arms around him and kissed him in that way. Eckhart chuckled and wrapped his arms around her, bending her backward as he leaned into the kiss. Her warm, sweet mouth and soft lips welcomed his kisses and demanded for more and more, and who was he to hold anything back from her? They were in her office, but that had never been an issue. In fact, her desk had proved itself on numerous occasions to be both a sturdy and reliable piece of furniture for their purposes. But Myne was of another mind.
Not here.
She said, breaking the kiss and breathing heavily.
Let's go to bed.
That probably meant there'd be no dinner, but what was that to him? He'd give up far, far, far more than mere food, drink, and sleep for one more night in Myne's arms. It turned out that he didn't have to give up dinner after all. Myne stirred awake after a while and sleepily summoned her attendants. After giving them a few orders, they wheeled in tea and sandwiches and other foods that they could easily eat in their room without need for attendants to fuss over them. They talked as they ravenously feasted on Ella's cooking, avoiding topics that weighted down on them most, until Myne's eyes drooped sleepily again. They cleaned themselves up and readied themselves for sleep. However, as he turned off the light and drew her body against his, Myne burrowed even closer into him.
Eckhart?
She whispered, her voice sounding small and scared.
What is it?
He replied.
Can you hold me?
He was already wrapped around her, but he squeezed her soft body against his even closer.
More.
She said breathlessly, so he did, though he was afraid that she would break if he held her as tightly as he wanted to. He wanted to hold her so tight that they ended up fusing and becoming one person. He craved for her to invade him and permeate his flesh and bones with her essence. That way they'd never have to part.
Don't let me go. Tomorrow, when he comes, don't let me go. Promise.
Ah.
All of a sudden, an irrational possessiveness took hold of Eckhart, and he held her close, even closer to him, going so far as to dig his fingertips into her flesh. The small sound of complaint she made at the back of her throat when he bit into her shoulder only stirred the wolf inside him. It was ready for another hunt under the winter moonlight.
I won't let you go. You're mine, after all,
He said before kissing her fiercely.
and I'm yours for life.
Myne. Had they led different lives? Had she been more than a concubine from the lower city aspiring to become a noble? Myne might have been able to join the send-off feast at the castle tomorrow night. It could have been arranged, as Myne was already well known among noble society. Plus, she knew the members of the archducal family fairly well. But that was strictly a family affair. And so Myne and Elvira had to content themselves with holding their own little get-together with Ferdinand, Eustace, and Eckhart as the guests of honor. As their schedule wouldn't permit it otherwise, Lady Elvira had to content herself with having them over for a lavish luncheon, with her as a hostess, and both she and Myne set to work to make it a success. Unfortunately, her head cook did not trust Ella anywhere near his kitchen, and would not permit her to do any of the main dishes, relegating Ella to the desserts. So, while the food was indeed very good, and it seemed everyone enjoyed it, Eckhart and Myne's eyes met over the ossobuco, and they shared a wry smile.
Ella could have done so much better.
Fortunately, where Myne had brooked no compromise was the consommé. So Ella had made it, and it was transported to the Lindbergh estate for the event. Plus, Ella outdid herself in the desserts, producing such tempting delights that even Ferdinand, who was not fond of sweets in general, complimented the cook. Crusher, that's your line. Oh.
Well, that was a pop in our ears. Crusher, you still there, bud? All right, I think I'm gonna read it.
Yeah.
A toast to Ella, who is most blessed of Kukulara.
Used to said. That's also you, Pat.
I know. Toasting a commoner. That's rich.
Cornelius murmured in derision, but raised his cup anyway and continued to stuff his face with Ella's delights. Myne wondered how Cornelius felt about her move to his house, but hoped that at least the knowledge that she was bringing her cook along with her would prove to her favor. She feared that he would happily buy her recipes after her stay there. Despite Cornelius's presence, the meal was pleasant. It also helped that she wasn't hosting. She had been so...
No, my headset stopped working, you guys.
Hello.
I have to use my phone now.
Okay.
Oh dear.
Okay. Well, the Justus part is gone, so are you still good for Ferdinand?
Yep.
Okay, cool. All right. Where was I? Top of page 7. Despite Cornelius's presence, the meal was pleasant. It also helped that she wasn't hosting. She had been so nervous thinking about how her first meeting with Ferdinand would go and how they would talk to each other after the disastrous night of Shitsaria that she had lost sleep over nothing.
I don't know if I'm ready, Eckhart.
She'd confess as dawn's cold gray light crept into the room.
What if I do or say something stupid? And I would hate to do something that would hurt you.
She knew she still loved Ferdinand in a way that was totally different, but no less real than the way she loved Eckhart. But what if seeing Ferdinand in all his grim glory would make her lose her head again? She hadn't been able to outright say it, but Myne feared that this goodbye would test her beyond what she could bear. It was while she was thinking of all these somber things that Eckhart had the audacity to chuckle and then howl with laughter.
What's so funny?
Myne said, raising her head and meeting his eyes.
Shoot. You're being silly. But that's what I love about you, I guess.
What do you mean?
He sighed.
How do I put this? You've got so much love to give, and you can't help but be absurdly generous to those you love. And there's no end to it. I've seen you toil for days on our behalf when you should be worrying over your own move. Yet, that's who you are.
He reached down to cover her again, snuggling around her and pressing a kiss to her temple.
To keep you all for myself is beyond the height of absurdity. In the same way you try to stop yourself from caring about others is just as absurd. Besides, no matter what happens, you won't ever disappoint me.
Silent tears began to fall from Myne's eyes, and Eckhart teased her about being a crybaby until she was a raging, angry showmill who threatened to return to her bedroom.
I'm sorry, don't go.
He said, pulling her back to the warmth of the bed.
Mm,
Can you forgive me?
mm.
Myne?
Fine, but only if you promise to stick with me. Don't leave me here alone with him.
He sighed tiredly.
Fine. But you'll see you have nothing to worry about. Believe me, I've already threaded the path you're walking on.
At that moment, Myne remembered Marie, and Eckhart's deep and steadfast love for his dead wife. Of course, he knew better than anyone about loving another person even beyond the point of hopelessness. Yet here he was, loving, cherishing, and giving so much of himself to another woman without reservation. Was it possible that she could do the same? She hoped so. Her heart began to race long before she saw Ferdinand. Sensing him in a way she couldn't sense anybody else always had that effect on her. Yet, as she laid eyes on Eckhart who walked behind Ferdinand, a sense of warmth spread throughout her chest, and she realized that she shared something far more significant with him. Their eyes met, and he gave her a secret sly smile that carried with it all the affection, love, and tenderness that they shared, and he seemed to be able to communicate to her with a single look.
You can do this. I'm here.
Right. Myne nodded once and held up her head high. She formally greeted Ferdinand without an issue, after which she found that she could do this. Not only that, but as the afternoon wore on, she was relieved to realize that she could talk to Ferdinand, act and think rationally in his presence. They exchanged short remarks over the meal, and it was quite easy to convince herself that the events of the night of Schutzaria had never taken place. She glanced at Eckhart's way. He raised his cup and discreetly toasted her with a proud glint in his eye.
See? I knew you could do it.
Myne's cheeks flushed slightly. By the time they moved on to one of the large parlors where the gifts were assembled, Myne was back in high spirits. Lady Elvira and Myne had worked hard to prepare the farewell gifts of all kinds, and Myne's heart was full of satisfaction when she saw how pleased Ferdinand was with his gifts. He looked both surprised and touched that Myne felt herself finally let go of the last remnants of bitterness that had still lingered in her heart as he thanked her for the gifts, giving her a soft, rare smile. It was almost like they were back to being friends. Almost. She would have liked to talk to him some more, but unfortunately an ordinance flew in and he was summoned to the castle, drawing the meeting to an early close. Just before they left, she exchanged some final words and wished him the best.
You make it sound like one of us is about to die,
Ferdinand said with his familiar grimace. Under much different circumstances, Myne would have pouted and told him that it was imperative that he return safely and not mock her good wishes. She probably would have threatened him in some way to make sure he kept her updated with weekly letters. Instead, she smiled primly up at him.
Please excuse my phrasing. That's not what I meant. I'll pray for your safe return, Lord Ferdinand.
I'll do my best,
Ferdinand said with a gentle look and a soft smile, though she must have been imagining it because it had been such a long time since he'd looked at her that way. He then turned away to say goodbye to their hostess, and Myne similarly turned away, swallowing a lump that had formed in her throat, only to find Eckhart next to her. He smiled mischievously, took her hand, and walked her to a spot behind a decorative screen.
What did I tell you? You had nothing to worry about.
Fine, fine.
She said, smiling up at him.
You were right. But I could only get through it because of you. I could feel you silently supporting me.
Eckhart smiled down at her.
Good to know. Shame we have to go, though.
Myne's smile gave way to a look of anxiety.
Do you think everything is all right?
Eckhart looked grave.
Hard to tell. I'll try to come back soon after the feast at the castle. But if I'm late, don't stay up. You need your rest.
I wonder whose fault that is.
Myne murmured under her breath.
Behave? You know we're in my mother's house.
Eckhart chuckled before he captured her lips in a kiss. Eckhart! Eckhart! They stared up in surprise and broke apart from their kiss as his mother appeared and interrupted their moment. Myne, embarrassed, wanted to crawl into a hole in the ground, but Eckhart simply walked out and joined the others as if nothing had happened. Scarlet-faced, Myne peered out from behind the partition and saw the 3 departing lords stride out into the snow outside until Lady Elvira's attendant closed the door behind them. She looked around her, at the house that was not her home, at the silent mansion where she was to spend her days, waiting for those she loved to return to her. Myne was used to farewells, but suddenly she felt an unbearable heaviness in her chest, and as she returned to the parlor where they had all been gathered, she began to feel like crying. It hurt. It hurt knowing that, superficially, she and Ferdinand were back to being friendly acquaintances. But that wasn't enough. Not for her. This wasn't how they should have parted. There was so much she still wanted to tell him, so much they needed to talk about. What if they never got the chance to apologize and truly make things right? Was this really how it ended? She started to weep. She cried for the casual farewell she had given to someone whose return was uncertain despite all their optimistic wishes. He deserved better than the cold send-off she'd given him. She cried for the ruined friendship she'd once shared with someone that had for many years been her teacher, mentor, and friend. She'd thrown all that away with her silly romantic feelings, and now that he was gone for good, it struck her as a tragic and terrible waste. And she also wept for Eckhart, who, at times like these, had always been there to put her back together. He'd just left a few moments ago, and he promised to return to her tonight, but she already felt the chill of his absence creep into her bones. Her noble warrior, her friend, her lifeline, was leaving soon and taking with him all the warmth, camaraderie, happiness, and passion that she'd found in her new life in a noble's quarter. How could she face the cold days and interminable nights that awaited her in his absence? She felt Lady Elvira's arms around her and heard her murmur words of comfort. Since they were alone in the room, Myne allowed herself to weep in the other woman's arms and hugged her future mother-in-law back. She was grateful for Eckhart's parting gift, a semblance of a family, or at least a mother figure that she sorely needed. Myne felt adrift without the one who had been her anchor all this time, so she clung to Lady Elvira. But she was no substitute, and Myne couldn't help but ask aloud,
How will I live my life without him?
End of chapter.
Aww.
So that was Myne's point of view. When I the goodbye, I was wondering, like, should I do it Ferdinand's point of view, Myne's point of view, or another character's point of view? So I decided that I had to do both. So this is kind of like her point of view, but now we're going to get Ferdinand's, what he was thinking throughout all that time. Because there's not enough suffering in this world, apparently. But we do have the consolation that Myne does get to have Lady Elvira to, comfort her a little. We know Lady Elvira is, best noble mom she could ever have. So yeah. I'm getting ready, setting up for the next one, so just hold on a second.
Okay.
Meanwhile, are there any... Let's see. Remember? Blockshot. Okay, so Blockshot, he has been so... Okay. One of the things I like about his comments is he always shares a song that would go with the particular stream. And so in this one, he already picked out The Farewell gets If You Leave Me Now from Chicago as a soundtrack in my head. That is a great song. If you leave me, oh gosh, yes. I like that song very much. I agree. Now for this one, I forgot.
If you leave
Mhm.
me now, you take away the biggest part of me.
Yep, that one. It's a good song. Trying to think, what were the actual songs that I did for this one? I forgot. Like I said, like this one has mostly like instrumental soundtrack that I put for these chapters, but I always look forward to hearing what you guys think about what would be a good song to go with each chapter. I know Yukihime often shares in the Discord server some of the songs that she thinks would be good for a particular chapter. So yeah, if you guys have any songs you like to share that you think would go good for these chapters, by all means share them. All right.
Well, I won't be a source for that one because I'm not good with musical accompaniment.
That's fine. So the next chapter is chapter 81, titled A Game of Pretend, and it's a Ferdinand point of view. It's saying goodbye to Myne, and I think I put the music here. The whirling ways of stars that pass. If you guys have ever watched the movie, the Theory of Everything, I believe it is. It has a really beautiful soundtrack. I didn't really care for the movie. There's too much drama. But the soundtrack is amazing, and I really like the song. So, and of course, one of my favorite songs. One of my favorite artists, her name is Jessie Reed. She, like, I was writing this song and she released, I was writing this chapter, and on that week or that day that she released this song. It's called Let Your Love Run Cold. It is so good. And yeah, we'll talk about the lyrics to that, kind of, because it really reflects a lot of what Ferdinand is feeling during this time.
And make sure you don't let your love run cold on Magpie, so make sure you like, subscribe, and follow her. And if you want to join us in future read-alongs, you can always join the Ko-fi and join us on Discord.
Yes.
We always have a lot of fun together, and I mean, you heard us bantering at the beginning of this video, so if you want to be involved with that, we always welcome.
Yes, do join us, everybody. Great fun here. And
Wait, don't you also have giveaways too, Magpie?
Oh yes, I do have a giveaways on occasion. So yeah, do that too. I think I have. If you become a Ko-fi member, you are automatically entered on the giveaways, which I have, and actually the odds for those are pretty darn good. I've had people that they're like, well, I know you have like so many subscribers and many people. You know what, you guys? People sometimes don't even enter, and actually sometimes I'm like, well, I think I'll add like more. Like usually I'm like 2 slots are open or 2 different gifts are available, and I'm like, well, let's just do another 2 or another 4 slots. So if the spirit moves me, like I do that too. So. But you have to be part of the Ko-fi members to be automatically entered. Yeah. Also, follow me on X and Blue Sky. I like to post updates on what's going on in the fandom. Just yesterday we got Manga 2 updates, so I was like there at the ready. So we'll talk about that some other time, I guess. But anyway, thank you guys for your support. Every bit helps. I know we're not monetized, but just your engagement, your comments, sharing it, talking about this fanfic with other people helps out a lot. So keep doing that, and yeah, you'll make this Magpie a very, very happy bird. All right, everybody, let's continue.
Yep, and we love it when our Empress is happy.
Yes, yeah. Yeah. I'm usually a happy Empress, but sometimes I think you guys caught me when I was like so angry I was like almost crying, but that was on the server, as off live. But usually I'm a very happy person. I think we have a really beautiful community. Like I've never had to deal with like toxic trolls. Like I know we joke and say that Patrick is our troll, but he's delightful. So we let him think that he's being a pain, but he's a delight. Just as all of you guys are. But yeah, it's a pleasure.
You heard it here, folks.
Yeah.
You heard it here.
Yes. You can quote it. You can save the video. You can bookmark it. Right. On Monday, December the 23rd at 1 or 2 p.m. Pacific time, Magpie validated Patrick and his trolling behavior. There you go.
He is the biggest simp of the entire server.
Yeah, the eggy
Whoa,
simp.
whoa.
Yes, he is the eggy simp. Gosh. He is such an eggy simp, man. But no, the biggest simp is me. I am the Ferdinand simp. That's why I am the winner. All right, you guys. Speaking of Ferdinand, let's do this chapter, okay? Chapter 81, A Game of Pretend, Ferdinand. Let's do this. Ready, everybody? All right. On his second to last night in Ehrenfest, Ferdinand worked through the night. By second bell the next morning, he had a splitting headache, and he grimaced with pain when the light of morning shone into the room. Lastfram knocked on the door softly and entered with fresh tea and refreshments, and while it was obvious that his attendant was biting back a well-meaning suggestion to rest for a bell before their lunchtime appointment, the green-haired man mutely went about his business, though Ferdinand could still all but feel the man's concern. Ferdinand rubbed his temples with a sigh and dumped the last of the paperwork onto one of the many piles neatly stacked on his desk.
This one goes to Sylvester himself, for his eyes only. And that's for Charlotte,
he said, pointing to different piles of completed paperwork, as well as correspondence and instructions.
These are for Sylvester's scholars, who are in charge of taxation. And this is for my successor in the temple, who will be more than able to deal with the rest going forward. See to it that it goes out promptly.
Yes, Lord Ferdinand.
Ferdinand reached for his tea and leaned back on his chair, feeling drained and exhausted. He gave additional instructions to his attendant as he sipped the hot, bitter liquid, a medicinal blend that he'd taken to drinking lately. If it didn't do anything for his nausea and headache, he'd have no choice but to take another potion, which would be wasteful and would leave him with even worse side effects. Maybe he'd do well to rest. He rose from his chair once he emptied his teacup.
I'm going up to my room now, to sleep for a bell. Be sure to prepare everything for our lunchtime appointment.
Yes, my lord. I will be sure to wake you then.
Ferdinand nodded, knowing his attendant's effort was unnecessary. He was compelled to take a potion that would rouse him exactly after one bell, whether he wanted it or not. Dreading the effects of the sleep potion, Ferdinand entered his dimly lit room. The robe fell away, and with a reluctant gulp, he consumed the potion and climbed to bed with a sigh. A symphony of aches and pains echoed through his body, mimicking the aftermath of intense physical activity, although it was merely the stiffness from prolonged sitting and the constant stress of his days weighing heavily atop of him. He was not an old man, yet he often closed his eyes and imagined his emaciated frame and how poorly it compared to his past self. Gaunt and feeble, long were the vigor, energy, and the toned physique of his youth when he'd led the charge against his opponents in Ditter, or when he'd commanded the Knight's Order. Not even 30, and he was already a relic of his youth. His body, once admired as a testament to strength and virility, had become a spectacle of protruding bones, and was a sight not worthy of admiration, let alone love. How would a beautiful, vibrant woman in the full bloom of spring react to the sight of him, bare and vulnerable as he was? He couldn't imagine there being anything but revulsion in her eyes. If only circumstances had allowed it, He could have fulfilled her desperate wishes and her father's stern demand. Marriage to her, and her alone. Yet his hands had been tied. Sylvester, in an attempt to keep Ferdinand from being taken by the Zent as one of her many prince consorts, and to keep the balance once Charlotte welcomed her Drowenshell groom, had predetermined Ferdinand as Charlotte's future husband. A futile measure, as events had proven. But if he could go back in time, would he have done the same?
Enough. It's useless to think of that now.
A feeble, pathetic part of him yearned to sleep the day away, or better yet, end the constant pain and exhaustion he felt. But what purpose would he serve Ehrenfest if he neglected his duties? He could not fail his father or Sylvester now. Besides, he had to be at Lady Elvirus's by fourth bell, where Eckhart's mother and Myne were organizing a farewell feast for them. Ferdinand dreaded it for a single reason. Not a day passed by that he didn't think of Myne, and of the way they had broken off things during the night of Shutsaria. And every day he regretted his actions more and more. Worse still, he dreaded the answer to the single burning question that haunted him at night, when Schlaftrem kept his blessings from him.
Does she hate me now?
He wouldn't blame her if she did. After all, he had crossed the line on the night of Shutsaria, and since then he'd struggled against the urge to reach out and retract it all. To make matters worse, every night he dreamt of her, of the real woman he loved, and of the dream version named Rosamine. Regret, grief, yearning, anger, confusion, these emotions coiled within him, festering to the point where he felt himself teetering on the edge of madness.
Myne.
At long last, the potion started to take effect, and he was swallowed up by sleep, waking up after a nightmare as a bell chimed in the distance. As ever, Myne only got lovelier each time he saw her. While she had captivated him in her purple and white gem-studded dress during the night of Shutsaria, the deep red hues of winter transformed her into a vision of beauty and femininity as she welcomed him. There was absolutely no hesitation in her greeting, nor could he detect a hint of reserve that would indicate her being angry at him. On the contrary, she was much like any other noble woman, which felt kind of odd. It was evident by the way she moved, talked, and carried herself that Elvira had influenced her greatly, and that the woman had taken great pains to polish her demeanor. No wonder he was struggling to read her. She used to be an open book, and he'd always gotten some sense of comfort at knowing that he could trust himself in her company because she was literally unable to lie to him or hide anything from him. But that sparkling, childish, transparent quality was gone. She was a proper noble, at least in everything but name. He should have felt proud of her accomplishments, but a part of him mourned for the girl who would never come back.
I hope you enjoy the double consommé.
She said, smiling at him.
Ella made it specifically for you. I was adamant that you should have it not just now, but when you go to the sovereignty. That way you have your favorite dish to comfort and remind you of the flavors of home.
Myne! You'll ruin the fun, Lady Elvira said, smiling, and Myne gasped and turned red, at last showing some of her real self to seep through.
Oh, I quite forgot. I'm sorry.
She apologized. Ferdinand was about to ask for details, but at that point Eckhart teased her, and they had a brief exchange that ended up making everyone laugh at how forgetful she was, and how she had ruined the surprise. It being a bunch of dishes in time-stopping devices for them to have until they were settled and Eustace could make sure that no poisoned food or drink would make its way to his master. Since they were on the subject, Myne and Eustace explained it all, and how they had had not just Myne's cooks, but also she contracted the Italian restaurant and even hired the splendid cook at the lay noble's tea house to make a large selection of dishes, including sweets and things that they might need in the sovereignty for socializing with royalty.
Not even those stuck-up royals can boast of a cook as gifted as Lady Myne's.
Eustace said confidently.
That's a very generous.
Ferdinand
I need
said.
to think of a way to repay you.
Myne smiled, and somehow he imagined sparkles all around her as she spoke her next words.
I'll be content with the rest of your book collection.
He blinked in surprise while everyone laughed. Though, to his credit, Eckhart gently chided his water goddess at such an audacious request. The next course was served as the pair engaged in a small argument.
Why am I surprised at your ridiculous demand? I should know better by now.
Ferdinand sighed.
Is your current book collection not enough?
Oh, it is, and I thank you for it.
Myne said cheerfully.
What I meant to say was borrow. I would like to borrow the magic books you kept from me all these years.
Are the books Justus delivered to you not enough?
Ferdinand asked, cutting into a veal dish in a rich white sauce. In preparation for her exams at the Royal Academy, he'd sent over all the books and study materials necessary for her first year, many of them being books that covered the fundamentals of magic.
I am almost done with them. My scholars are at the moment finishing the transcription.
Myne? Are you serious? Lady Elvira asked, her eyes round in surprise. Do you mean to say that you've raced through the first year curriculum? If I'm not mistaken, it is very dull with so much history and old theology. Myne only smiled in reply.
That's an impressive feat.
Ferdinand said.
But no amount of speed reading can guarantee you a passing score. Only a fool would be so overconfident. Be sure to review before the exams.
Myne nodded.
Of course. But don't worry. I'm taking my studies very seriously. I am very anxious to finish all my exams as soon as possible.
Ferdinand noticed that her eyes strayed to Eckhart, who smiled slightly. Ferdinand blinked when he saw his retainer's eyes, usually so stern and watchful, going soft, and they seemed to communicate something to her before he returned to his usual self.
I must have imagined it.
Ferdinand glanced at Eustace, sorry that he was going to pile more work on his scholar.
Get in touch with Bernard before we go so he can put together second, third, and fourth year review materials. I don't know how fast she'll devour the curriculum, so we might as well prepare her for multiple years' worth. Yes, my lord.
The conversation shifted, and Ferdinand delved into a discussion with Lady Elvira. Upon inquiry, she provided intricate details about the preparations for Myne and the protective measures in place for her future daughter-in-law. These assurances left Ferdinand feeling comforted. While Myne already had a young woman safeguarding her, Lady Elvira planned to hire additional female knights. Despite the discreet nature of their conversation, though, Ferdinand found his eyes frequently drawn to Myne, who was engaged in discussion with Eckhart further down the table. There was a change in her that he could not put his finger on. She was lovelier than ever, but it wasn't a physical change that he detected. There was an enigmatic allure and a quiet confidence that hadn't been present before. The way she gestured and the movement of her lips proved distracting. He tried to puzzle it out during the rest of the meal, growing ever more frustrated at how attracted he was to her, but also not understanding what it was that he was missing. Until at some point, toward the end of the meal, she shared a secret, sly smile at Eckhart, and Ferdinand understood at once. He had witnessed such looks many times, back when Florencia and Sylvester had just had their starbind. Ferdinand closed his eyes, exhaling softly, as he tried to control the sudden sense of disorientation as his entire world tilted sideways. Eckhart and Myne were now lovers, or at least bound by a connection akin to the profound love shared by devoted couples like Sylvester and Florencia. It was as though they could communicate, understand each other's thoughts, without verbalizing them.
How? When?
How much time had passed since Myne had professed her love to him beneath the radiant purple moon of Shutsaria? Had her heart swayed so easily that her love for him had been discarded so swiftly and so easily? Was that the reason why there was no trace of bitterness or rancor to be found in her? Of course, there was no way to ask. He could not ask. He had matched the two together, but what they did in privacy was none of his business. He should have rejoiced that the two of them had ended up being so compatible. He'd intended for this development to happen at some point, yet... Her voice, from a time that seemed an eternity past, echoed in his mind.
But I don't need anyone else. I just want you. One final gift.
Myne said, presenting him a squat cylindrical magic tool, finely decorated with gold and painted landscapes and a shiny material. The top of the cylinder contained an inlaid blue face stone. It was a magical tool Myne had invented with the aid of her scholars. She called it
Carillon.
They had now moved to a large parlor where a large variety of gifts had been laid out for them, including the absurd amount of food packed into 3 time-stopping tools. And to his surprise, and frankly bemusement, defensive and offensive tools of all kinds, prepared by Myne's scholars, which she'd purchased for them. It seemed both Eckhart and Eustace had availed themselves of Myne and taken up her resources for his sake. As to the tool she handed him,
It's silly, and a master musician like you might find it laughable. But this is a music box activated by voice commands. It has many songs recorded in it, and as long as the tool has mana, it will play any song you wish at any time. It is the latest prototype that my scholar has produced, and I must say, it is quite satisfactory. Try it.
both Eckhart and she taught him how to use it, and he was shocked to hear the sound of Harspiel playing clearly and beautifully the song he'd asked for. The audio was so good that he could close his eyes and imagine that there was a musician in the room playing the Harspiel. He asked for another tune and was shocked when he heard Myne's clear voice singing along with the Harspiel. Confused, Ferdinand looked her way. She colored and looked sheepish.
Unfortunately, some of the songs have my voice, but most of them have Rosina singing. It's just how it happened. You may even hear yourself singing in one or two.
She smiled, as if hoping the last statement would please him. It did not.
Take this and put it away.
He said curtly to Eustace. He'd investigated when he had more time. Meanwhile, his attendant took the box, but he was not as surprised or as curious as Ferdinand at seeing such a freakish, silly tool. Instead, he murmured something about a person called a veritas, and the three of them talked of things he didn't nor cared to understand. His headache was returning.
It has a few other uses,
Myne told his attendant.
but Eckhart will tell you about them later. Be sure to keep it safe.
Of course, of course.
Eustace cackled. The attendants poured tea and they settled on conversation. Ferdinand saw Myne and Eckhart talking in a corner before she made her way toward him and sat next to him on the settee. The delicious scent of her perfume followed her, and he couldn't help but lean in a little closer.
I hope you enjoy your gifts. Sorry it was all so rushed, but I hope that they help you.
You didn't need to go so far.
Ferdinand said, meaning it. He knew his own brother wouldn't do half as much for him.
Between co-hosting a lavish lunch and preparing all this, have you even taken your preparation seriously?
He didn't mean to speak harshly and rebuke her, but the truth was that tomorrow was the day she finally moved into Lady Elvira's house. In fact, tomorrow was also the day he moved to the sovereignty for good.
You don't have to worry about me. I'll be fine.
She said, though she looked down as she said it.
You can't be careless, Myne.
He felt annoyed for no reason. Was she going to be careless with her person?
Now that winter is here, you need to be more vigilant. I did mention to leave Eckhart with you, but you went behind my back, colluded with Justus, Elvira, and even Karstead. I had no other choice but to take him with me.
Colluded? Please watch your phrasing. You make it sound so awful.
Myne replied testily.
How could an Archduke candidate go anywhere without their retinue? It's ridiculous. But most of all,
She said, smiling sadly.
Eckhart would never forgive me if I was the reason you left him behind.
They both glanced at Eckhart. His faithful guard knight was in the middle of a conversation with Elvira, who seemed to be getting on her son's case, lecturing him about who knew what. Still, Eckhart was putting up with it bravely and patiently, as he always did.
Be sure to study well. The courses at the Royal Academy, especially the Scholar course, are demanding indeed. Take them seriously.
Ferdinand said, changing the conversation.
I will.
Myne said, meeting his eyes with determination.
I will catch up to you. Just you wait and see.
Ferdinand nodded, and a brief silence lingered as their eyes met. However, he couldn't read her. It seemed they did not share that kind of connection. Ferdinand grappled with numerous questions and restrained himself from broaching certain delicate topics, like their previous encounter, her declarations of love, and whether she could ever forgive him. At the very least, he needed to apologize, even if she had already seemed to move on.
But had she truly?
He wished he could read her, or at least convey everything he felt. Despite what he'd put her through, he did truly love her. He'd always love her, even if she had moved on. Maybe it was for the best. A man like he, who was born for the express purpose of becoming a Faystone, a man whose life was borrowed and therefore not his own, did not have a claim to love. His life was one of duty and not to pursue his desires. Oh, but if he'd been free, if he'd been allowed to love her and bind himself solely to her, he'd have built his world around her. He'd have showered her with treasures and all the books she could ever want, adorned her with Faystones, guided her in his mana, and made sure that no one ever threatened her safety or happiness. He'd have given in to his deepest desires and cherished her as his Geduld. He'd have done anything and battled against anyone to keep her. Echoes of a long-forgotten dream resurfaced in his mind.
The greater duchies, the sovereignty, the royal family, and even the gods themselves. I would make an enemy of the entire world to save you.
Grimacing, he pushed away the delusions from his ever-worsening madness, which only ever tortured him. Just then, an ordnance landed in his arm.
Ferdinand,
Sylvester said.
come to the castle without delay. There is an urgent matter of security that Karstead and I need to discuss with you.
Ferdinand exhaled. It seemed their time was up. He pretended not to notice when Eckhart led Myne away just before they left. Pretended he didn't hear them whispering sweet nothings to each other, as his heart ached with a yearning to be the one behind that screen, holding her and kissing her, and then returning home to her at the end of the day, for the rest of his life. He had to pretend, because otherwise he had to pretend, because otherwise he'd give in to the sudden wild impulse to go there himself, pull them apart, and then carry her away somewhere far away so no man could ever touch the woman he loved. Thankfully, Elvira went to fetch Eckhart herself, and with that, Ferdinand spun on his heel and took a step forward, and then another.
Don't look back. Don't look back.
Every step felt increasingly arduous, and he had to grit his teeth as he went. He alone understood what this goodbye meant. Whether he returned or not, this was farewell for good. And just one look at her face would be enough to shatter his resolve. End of chapter. So I have a huge note, author's note at the end, but that doesn't apply to you guys. It applies a lot to the commenters in AO3. And so I won't even read it here, but yeah. So that's Ferdinand's chapter. Definitely he's conflicted. Has a lot on his plate. But he's Ferdinand, he can handle it. He'll be okay. Alright, you guys. Let me see some comments here. By the way, I did notice that. I really thought Lastfrom had green hair. Does he have green hair? I was pretty sure he had green hair. He does?
Maybe it was brown just because there's so many other green-haired people in the story.
That's true. Yeah, because I was reading this, I was like, oh man, did I mess it up? Okay, good to know.
Yeah, Ferdinand feels a lot of regret. It's like he wants to go back to the good old days of just him and Myne in the temple. I know the perfect song for this. I will post it later, though.
Okay. Be sure to post it. By the way, I think we saw in the chat. Hi, Remy. Hi, Remy. Are you still in the chat? Happy to see you. I know you said you were going to be busy for these last couple of weeks. So thank you for dropping in and saying hello. Says, already miss you guys. We miss you too.
Yeah. Thanks for highlighting.
Yeah. To our beautiful highlighters, we had Teal and Harami who highlighted these 2 chapters. Thank you very much. As always, you guys know that that makes our job reading so much easier. So really, thank you.
It may be a lot less chaotic with so much fewer people, but we definitely enjoy having all of you guys here.
Right. Yeah, we do. I know it's the holidays. It happens. And that way, there's not a lot of what's it called? I'm just thinking, like, for a long time when I was writing this, people were very angry at me whenever there was a Ferdinand chapter, because they were like, why doesn't he just take Myne? So I'm glad that here, at least in this group, we all kind of like understand. We understand the Ferdinand and why I'm writing Ferdinand in this way. But I think in this chapter, it kind of made it more clear, like, why he just turned Myne away so many times. So we have the revelation that he has, there's an understanding there that he's going to have to marry Charlotte, just because Charlotte's going to marry somebody from outside of the duchy. So since with Charlotte being the having a first husband or whatever from Drowenshell, they need somebody from Ehrenfest who can keep, balance. So they decided, hey, Ferdinand, the Zent, Eglantine, wants to make you into one of her harem. So let's try to like keep you here by having Charlotte, like having you marry Charlotte when she comes of age. So that's also a reason why he can't be with Myne, especially since Gunther said you guys can only be together if he comes here, promises to marry you, and have no other women beside you. That's gonna be problematic, right? Yeah. A lot of things get in the way of true love in this world, unfortunately. block short. Isn't the chaos what makes these read-alongs this funny most of the time? Yeah, it's that, and sometimes when like somebody's line is here and they don't read, and we're like, "Where are you? Hey, it's your turn." Like, oh, I'm sorry. And I love it the most.
And of course, there's always me being a troll and
Yeah,
being just
and I love
the
it.
chief mischief.
I love it the most though when this happens. Like, hey, it's your line, when it's like a really like dramatic part. So like you have the tension. Like I'm trying to maintain the tension. It's like so like it just plummets. Like, where are you? Like, what page are we on? Like, my mic is not working, and I'm just like, oh well.
And we definitely had a bit of that this session.
Oh my goodness, did we ever?
Not my fault. Technical difficulties.
Yo, like I felt like my ears like just like do like this great big. That was you. I was like, what in the world was that?
I will say I'll be louder in the new year, most likely. I just need a preamp for my new microphone.
Ooh, fancy. You'll be having like a really fancy setup, kind of like Fergie. I don't know what he does to his microphone. Whenever he speaks, I have to like adjust his volume. But his is like really nice, loud, clear, and because he has all these things on his mic. So look at you. I look forward to hearing Teal's voice in all its magnificent glory.
I definitely want a mic like Fergie's.
Yeah, we should ask him about his setup. Like, hey Fergie, can you do like a tutorial on how you set up your stuff?
I actually asked him about it once, and he said he can't remember if he got it from like Goodwill or if it was a giveaway or something. But yeah, it wasn't something that he actually went out and got like the high dollar amount. He just happened to find it, and it was affordable.
Yeah, there's having the hardware and then also learning how to configure the settings. And that's where it gets me. Like, if I could just do plug and play, cool, I'll pay the thing, you know, but then you have to set it up in OBS and all the things, and that's where I fail. Sorry, Teal, were you going to say something?
I don't think so.
Oh, okay. All right, so we have the 2 goodbye chapters. I'm sorry that they kind of ends with a downer, but you know, we're in that part of the story. I think the next chapter it hasn't been highlighted because I have to go and edit it. I'm so sorry, Teal. I will do it today. Don't worry.
It's okay.
But anyway, we won't be having a read along on Wednesday because it's a holiday. It'll be Christmas, so whatever. It'll be, Christmas and Hanukkah also, and then on Thursday it'll be Kwanzaa, and Boxing Day. So, you guys, a lot to look forward to, whatever it is that you celebrate. I hope that you are able to do so safely with your friends and your family, and let's see, anything else here? Yes, Red Tempest, the memes definitely make it fun. Thank you for sharing your memes, and let's see.
And he shared a very nice meme in the voice chat
today.
Yeah, he tagged you in it.
Oh, okay, hold on, let me see.
It's not related to the read along though.
Oh, okay, well then I'll watch it later then. Thanks for the heads up, Chris.
It's related to some of our discussion pre-read along.
That is not. I am not going to share this. That's going to make. No, I'm not going to share this. You're taking.
Join the Discord, everyone. Exclusive memes.
Yeah, exclusive memes indeed. All right, you guys. So, I hope you guys have Merry Christmas. We will see you. We will have a read along Monday on the 30th. So it'll be an entire week, but it's better than not having a read along until January. So hope you
Merry Christmas, everybody.
enjoy your time with your family. We love you so much. Be safe out there, okay? All right. Thank you, gang, for reading with me, and hope you guys also enjoy your holidays. Bye bye.
Bye-bye. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. And thank you to everyone who read as well. Bye.